Hi, if you read my email this week, you know I've been absent for 7 or 8 weeks. Here's what I didn't share in detail: the signals our body sends that we all tend to ignore. So, in my case, I was traveling, I was busy, and the night before that fever hit, my body was already communicating with me. I had experienced some loss of appetite, sluggish movements, lackluster feeling as I was starting to pack to leave the next morning for the airport. Nothing sort of dramatic that you haven't been through before. So I ignored it because I had plans, I was busy. So this episode is not about what happened after that necessarily, but to share that I just spent 7 weeks living what I teach and coach people about. And I want to share what that looked like, what I experienced, what I'm learning still, and what I'm being reminded of about signals and uncertainty in life. See, I'm not going to pretend that I have figured it all out. Far from it. But after several encounters with, my near deaths, I'm not going to pretend I have this figured out. But after 6 encounters with death and other experiences, I keep getting some lessons, probably the same lessons. So maybe you can learn from my slow learning curve, guys. So what happened? Well, nothing was screaming emergency on that day that I was leaving to go to pack for the airport. So I took some medicine, got on the flight home, but as soon as I landed, my fever went to 103. So you see, we all have plans. I got so much to do, can't afford to be sick. I got work, I have trips planned, clients are waiting to hear from me, and on and on and on. We've said that all before to ourselves. So when my fever hit 104 that evening, it would continue to spike. I would take my medicine and it would come back again. So this cycle continued for several days. Eventually, I ended up in the emergency room where they ran tests, scans, blood work, everything you can imagine. So in my blood markers, liver enzymes were elevated, indicating infection somewhere in my body, but they really couldn't figure out what it was that was causing all this. And then they sent me home. And and as usual, the ER diagnostics are really about the best they can do with scans. They just said fever of unknown origin. They actually wrote down FUO, fever of unknown origin. Well, 3 days later, this cycle continued and I was back in the ER, this time not just with fevers, but also continuous headaches. And none of those painkillers or fever reducing medicines were really helping. So then did more tests, admitted me this time, and then I had 6 more days in the hospital while all sorts of tests were being done by neurologists and doctors and so on, blood work being sent to various labs, and on and on and on. My hemoglobin continued to drop, no appetite, totally dehydrated, lost about 20 pounds. Well, through all of this, nobody knew what was wrong. And they were continuing to investigate while I was living in complete uncertainty. Eventually, on day 7 in the hospital, something came back positive. So they latched onto that and said, well, maybe that's what's causing this infection. So without going into all that detail, I just want to share what I experienced. And what was it like to live with this uncertainty for almost 2 weeks? Through the delirium that you feel when fevers are very high, you can't really figure out who you are, where you are, brain fog, mental fog, and complete uncertainty. But I would say overall, I'd say I remained calm. Not because I'm enlightened, because I'm special. No, because I have learned that I don't need to know everything. And when I could, from my hospital bed, I did breath work, which is something I do regularly, chatted with nurses, learned about what their life is like, working 12-hour shifts and being crazy busy. So, for me, and I watched monitors and heart rate, blood pressure, etc. And it seemed everything was humming along. So I reflected what it means to die in the moment for a new moment to be born. I'm not saying I was dying. This was not a near-death experience. I just felt incredibly weak. But what I'm trying to say is every moment that passes, something dies while something new emerges. Many scriptures have said about dying in each moment so that a new moment can be born. It's just that we don't pay attention. And I had my moments of frustration, not being able to get up when I wanted to from the hospital bed, exhaustion from not really knowing what was coming down the pike, getting no updates from the doctors necessarily on a regular basis. But I just noticed those feelings, didn't try to fix them. So I just want to share some couple of learnings, as a framework. The body knows something is wrong before the mind ever does. Tests may confirm it later on, but the body already knows, right? That's an indicator of being sick. So those early signals that I mentioned that I had, I didn't honor them, didn't go. Signals are always subtle. There's nothing dramatic, nothing that demands immediate attention. So what I'm practicing when I'm noticing something is off, not sick, just off, I ask, is this just today that it happened? Or have I been noticing this for a few days? How am I really feeling? A couple of days later, if that's continuing, the body is trying to tell me something. And that's when I need to reach out to get some help. The body doesn't scream until it has to. It whispers first. And here's the pattern. Things don't just fall apart suddenly. They fall apart slowly, day by day. It just seems sudden, the fever, in my case, the hospital, the crisis, but my body was communicating for days, I'm sure, and I didn't pay attention to that. Your career, for instance, doesn't collapse in one meeting. It erodes over months of misalignment that you're ignoring. Your relationships don't end one fine day in divorce or whatever. They've undergone slow erosion each day. Your health doesn't fail overnight, as in my case. It degrades incrementally through signals that we've ignored or overridden. We notice the collapse, but we miss the slow decline that preceded it. The other thing I'm going to share is sitting with I don't know yet. Everyone wants certainty. The doctors want that too. I wanted it too. But I've softened around the needing to know everything. My mind wanted to know, of course, what's wrong? How long will this last? What's the outcome? Whatever the case is, how long is it going to go on for? None of those had answers. Asking them over and over again just creates more confusion and suffering. So I started to practice saying, I just don't know yet. And the one word yet, it does change everything. It implies this is temporary. It's going to pass. Here's another thing. Most of what we think we can control, we actually don't. I could not control the diagnosis. I couldn't control when fevers would spike or when they would go away. I couldn't control how long this would take. What I could control, whether I ate despite no appetite, maybe, whether I moved a little despite exhaustion, whether I supported the process instead of fighting it. These little things, my own responses in each little moment. Most suffering, I always say, comes from trying to control things that are outside our purview or our influence. And this, noticing without fixing it. That has been such an important lesson for me. I'm going to repeat this. Noticing without fixing it. So when the fever goes up and I feel delirious, I notice, oh my God, this is delirium. There is discomfort, sure. Not I'm dying, it's just what's happening. So that shift from identifying with the experience to really observing it is what creates more space. And I'm not some, as I said, trying to get in, I'm enlightened and therefore I'm special. No, this has taken practice and I'm still learning. So what am I still learning? Some of you know I've had 6 near-death experiences. I mean, you think I'd have this figured out by now. But we don't master this stuff. We just get slightly better each time. Maybe we have a revelation in the moment each time we experience something. And we always revert to our own old behaviors. So these 7 weeks have reminded me that you can sit in not knowing without collapsing. I'm going to repeat this. You can sit in not knowing without collapsing. The body communicates before the mind will ever understand it. Certainty is almost always an illusion. 10 years ago, if you'd asked me, I would have needed answers in the moment. I would have researched obsessively. I would have tried to force some kind of certainty. Now I can sit in, I don't know yet, without making it something mean something terrible to me. Now I can sit in, I don't know yet, without making it mean something terrible. That's not special. It's simply practice through loss, through near death, through other experiences that show me that it's always about uncertainty. So uncertainty after uncertainty after uncertainty. And you are experiencing it all day, but you just don't recognize it. So the executives I work with, for instance, I noticed they're typically in their 40s and 50s even. They have yet to develop this capacity. And it takes time. It took me time. They're inevitably waiting for a crisis to teach them. You see, you don't have to wait. You can develop this now. My father used to say, the best kind of learning is from other people's experiences. But the truth is, we all need to experience something ourselves to really open our eyes to what happens. We know people that are sick. We know things that happen to other people. They just don't happen to us until they do. And then that's your learning. So you have two ways to look at this. Either something happens to you that's externally forced, or you have some opportunity to learn from somebody else and maybe help accelerate your growth and your learning curve. So let's talk about practical experience. This week, maybe you could try this. When you notice something feels off, and I mean you need to look for the emotion that you feel, pause for 60 seconds. Is this just today that I just noticed this, whether it's in my relationship, career, health, or has this been going on for a while? If it's a pattern, then you must honor it. Acknowledge it. Your body is trying to tell you something. And when I say body, you know what I mean, emotion that's in the body. Next time you face something you cannot control, say it out loud. I don't know yet. And then ask, what can I actually control here? Redirect your energy into that and let go of the rest. So when strong feelings come, you can say, there is anxiety, instead of saying, I'm anxious or I'm panicking. There is anxiety, frustration, whatever, pick your word, the emotion you are feeling. That small little shift, recognizing that exists, creates some breathing room for you. So start doing that today if you can. And if you're thinking, I need help developing this before life forces me to, well, then reach out to me. My email is in the show notes below. And the work I do is about building this internal architecture before you need it. I mean, I've just spent 7 weeks. I've just spent 7 weeks testing what I've built. It held together. Not perfectly, but it did hold together. You can build this internal mastery as well. What got me through? This willingness to sit in not knowing without forcing an answer. So, as I said, I've had some practice, but I'm still learning. And we all will never get it done. But you're going to face uncertainty, something you truly cannot control. So you'll either have to have some capacity to sit with it, or you won't. So I would say start practicing now. Thank you for listening to this very personal episode of Bold Conscious Connections. Thank you for being there, my friend.